New polling reveals 7 in 10 Americans believe President Trump should allow top administration aides to testify when impeachment goes to a Senate trial. But Democrats and Republicans are sparring over how to even handle impeachment as it proceeds. So here to deal with all this analysis, it's the host of the Jimmy Dore Show, Jimmy Dore himself. He joins me now via Skype. It's great to see you, Jimmy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Great to talk to you.
So, Jimmy, we've got this Senate trial upon us. What President Trump did is he dared to touch Ukrainian military aid, I guess temporarily, which is in and of itself such a high crime and misdemeanor. It merits removal from office. Just your initial reaction. Let's say leave the merits around for this. Let's do the politics of this alone. How does this work for the Democrats?
So again, we have to go back to why all this is happening, I think, right? So why did the Democrats push Russiagate for 3 years and then immediately drop it and switch over to impeachment? And why are they doing this? Well, because the Democrats can't oppose Trump on substance. What do you mean? Well, as they've been screaming Russiagate and impeachment, they've been giving Trump everything he wants legislatively, right? So if the Democrats were going to actually oppose Trump on substance, they'd have to oppose the establishment which Trump is serving. But turns out the Democrats are the establishment, which is why they gave, as they're calling him a traitor to our country, they gave him increased spying powers. As they're calling him a traitor to our country, they gave him $131 billion extra dollars to go bomb people. Now, would you give somebody $131 extra billion for bombs if you thought he was going to bomb who Putin wanted to be bombed? Right. No, you wouldn't. So that shows you that and this reveals my point to be true, that the reason why they keep, and you talk about Ukraine. Now, if they're going to impeach Trump for Ukraine, why didn't they impeach Barack Obama for Ukraine? Because he also didn't want to give aid to Ukraine. So the politics of this is bad for the Democrats, because what they need to do, why Hillary lost, is because people weren't motivated to get off the couch in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania and vote for her. That was the problem. And impeachment and Russiagate does not get people off the couch to vote for them. And that's why Trump, if you look at the latest polling, he's beating every one of the Democrats.
Right. No, right. Jimmy, you hit on it exactly, which is that it's a very vacuous. I mean, here's the perfect illustration. The House will vote on impeachment, and the next day they will vote on USMCA in order to give a trade deal to the president. This is the same House Speaker, Nancy Pelosi, says we can impeach the president and give him a trade deal at the same time. Now, look, I think the trade deal is actually okay, but I'm saying, like you said, if you think this person is so bad, you're going to pass a military budget for $131 billion, an additional requested spending of the commander-in-chief, and you're going to give them a trade deal with wide executive latitude. This just seems like an obvious, it's so obviously political in lieu of having anything to actually say.
Yes, and it's I think people see through it, and the people who don't follow it closely, might not see through it, but they do see that the Democrats aren't offering them anything, and that the guy who is offering them something, Bernie Sanders, that they're constantly trashing. It's amazing to watch the Democrats do Trump's bidding in Congress. You know, there was a reason why Trump came out and said, I want Nancy Pelosi to be speaker. I can work with her, and if she doesn't have the votes, I'll get her the votes. Right. Remember when he said that? And now look, why did he say it? Because Nancy Pelosi just gave him everything he asked for in the NDAA. There was no compromise. Not one thing did they compromise on. The Democrats said, oh, no, we got parental leave. And Trump goes, no, I wanted that anyway. So there was no compromise. They gave Trump everything he wanted. And you go watch MSNBC, and they're talking about what a master legislator Nancy Pelosi is and how she's diminished Donald Trump. She hasn't diminished him one bit. If she's diminished him, why is he polling above all the other Democratic candidates?
But, Jimmy, you forgot that she clapped at him one time.
Yeah, she clapped. She clapped at him. And why? And here, let me just say this. I'm so grateful for this opportunity to say this on the show. The reason why Nancy Pelosi did not impeach George Bush, and I haven't heard anybody else say this, the reason why she did not impeach him, I have to turn this off my phone.
No worries.
The reason why is because George W. Bush told Nancy Pelosi, the CIA told Nancy Pelosi in 2002 that they were torturing people. Nancy Pelosi didn't do anything about it. She didn't call for an investigation, which makes her complicit in that torture. So that's why when she gained the House in 2006 and everybody wanted her to impeach George Bush for war crimes, she said impeachment's off the table, and nobody could figure out why. Well, now we know why, because Julian Assange revealed that she was complicit in torture, and they will never tell you that in New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, or MSNBC. But I will tell you that from my garage in Pasadena.
And listen, you're right. What you're showing is that this is a bipartisan thing from the very beginning. And if anything, because the Bush administration went to war the correct way, that's okay. And so really what it is that what they're indicting or what they're trying to impeach Trump for is a process crime. But another thing I want to get to with you, Jimmy, is you have long been a stalwart on this, on FISA abuse in particular. And we got some news out of that with the IG report. And I wanted to get your reaction to that IG report and just how deep the hubris goes at the top of our national security state.
Well, if you saw James Comey's interview with Chris Wallace, he can somehow turn a Fox News host into Walter Cronkite. That's how bad that James Comey, the FBI, the resistance to Donald Trump really is, right? If you saw that, James Comey, whose big thing is Donald Trump is a big liar, James Comey was repeatedly called out for lying to his face on national television. And the guy lives in such a bubble. The FBI's been, this is what they do as a matter of course. Right? They lie. And if they can't intimidate you to do their bidding, then they'll plant a smear piece on you in the newspaper, and then they'll lie to a newspaper about it. And he's so used to journalists just repeating what he says and rolling over and taking all those BS answers that he gave Chris Wallace. He wasn't ready for that. So what happened in the FISA application was that the FBI didn't lie once or twice or 3 times or 4 times or 5 times, 17 times to get a FISA warrant, which means they can spy on someone. And then if they can get a FISA, this is the other part that almost never gets reported, is that if they get a FISA warrant on Carter Page, illegally, which is what they did. They lied to the court. Then that they not only can spy on Carter Page, but there's a thing called the 2-hop rule, which means they can spy on him and then anybody else he talks to. So anybody he talked to inside the Trump campaign, they could now tap their phone.
Right.
So that's why it's such a big deal. And as Glenn Greenwald reported, this is one of the biggest civil rights abuses in the history of the organization. But again, if you turn on MSNBC, they would act like it's nothing, and the FBI was exonerated. It's amazing.
It is amazing. They're not just even, they're like celebrating the fact that they broke the law. But there it is. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure.
Absolutely. We'll have more Rising right after this.